Greetings, Hotep brothers and sisters. My name is Nkosi Mundari. Today is July 1st, 2012. I come to you once again by way of due diligence, focus, good health, and love for self and kind. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you some wise counsel from the brilliant minds of African people. And I want to underscore the word wise because it is clearly evident by our present state that the overwhelming majority of Africans globally are following and continue to follow unwise counsel. Additionally, a salute to the brothers and sisters whose wise counsel I was unable to include. Okay, now for some truly wise counsel. From the Hosea, the book of Kedi, it reads, "Follow in the footsteps of your ancestors, because the mind is trained through knowledge. It says, behold, their words endure in books. Open and read them and follow their wise counsel." From the book of Counsel, it reads, "Punish those who deserve punishment, and none will equal your righteousness." Dr. Bobby Wright, who was one of my favorites, Dr. Bobby Wright said, "In a racist social system," he said, "all of the institutions in that system reflect, protect, and sustain all of the values that are consistent with racism." He also said that all of those institutes serve to perpetuate the racist social theory or the racist thinking of those who created the system. In other words, the raping, lying, thieving, murdering, land-grabbing slave owners who established this country and the thinking that is associated with that type of behavior is kept alive through their institutions, which are maintained by their descendants and their running dog, lackey, European wannabes. Dr. Bobby Wright also said that blacks cannot continue to appeal to Europeans' sense of morality, their sense of humanity, their sense of justice, or their sense of fair play, when they have no humanity, they have no morality, and they have no justice or sense of fair play where race is the variable. And that variable, brothers and sisters, is the African people. So bottom line, when it comes to African people, Europeans mean us no good. Steve Biko, Brother Biko said, "The most powerful tool in the hands of the oppressor is the minds of the oppressed." Powerful words. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, "It is a fool who does not love himself and his people." Sam Yet. Brother Sam Yet wrote the book called The Choice, and he said this. He said, "We have two choices. One is liberation, the second is liquidation." He said, right now what we have is pacification. Pacification does not mean liberation, and pacification does not stop liquidation. Brilliant words. Brilliant. That brings us to Dr. John Henry Clark, our master teacher, one of our master teachers, Dr. Clark. And Dr. Clark said, "People of power never teach people of no power how to take power from them." He said that marching does nothing more than waste time, resources, and good shoe leather. Dr. Clark also said, every form of true education trains the student in self-reliance. Sister Ida B. Wells, Sister Wells said these words, and I love these words. She says, a Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every African home. I like that. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Dr. Welsing said, the most disastrous aspect of colonization, which we are the most reluctant to release from the African mind, is the colonization of the image of God. Masterful words. Okay, that brings us to Malcolm X, who said these words of urgency. He said, by any means necessary. And yours truly. What drives this search for answers in the heavens? It is enemy fear and self-hatred. You have been trained for 500 years to fear your oppressor and to hate yourself. You fear holding your oppressor accountable and responsible because he has shown you consistently, century after century, year after year, and day after day, what he will do to you. And as a result, your petrified fear, coupled with self-loathing and self-hatred, has driven you to hide behind a multiplicity of illusions to address your problems. Anything but to hold your slave master and the sellouts among us accountable. The solution to all of our problems is in the mirror. That brings us to Dr. Batu Shikari. Dr. Shikari said these stinging words of truth. He said, we refuse to accept the openly evident reality that we are dealing with a deeply disturbed psychopathic killer and land grabber who has a God complex that is deeply rooted in their evolutionary history. Magnificent words. Dr. Shikari also said that African people have been reduced to a sick and pathetic servant and imitator of our open and bitter enemy. And he said their place as our open and bitter enemy is supported by several thousands of years of documented history. Dr. Maulana Karenga similarly responded by saying, our people have been reduced to an obscene caricature of the dominant society. In other words, our people have been reduced to a sick cartoon of white people. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. Ben said, African people have not yet learned that worshiping another's God, especially your slave master's God, will free them from cultural and physical genocide, because it won't. He said, why should African people be the only exception to this historical reality? It's Dr. Ben. Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Dr. Woodson said, freedom is to come to the Negro, not as a bequest, but as a conquest. Dr. Amos Wilson. Dr. Amos Wilson said, I speak of revolution because we are not yet to have one. He said that our freedom and liberation are yet to be won and secured. He said that our enemies still rule us and their numbers increase. He said that their strength grows exponentially. Dr. Wilson also said, why do I speak of revolution? He says that our people are dying. He says that our people are yet downtrodden near the level of the ground. He said it must be revolution or it will be death. He says, I intend to live, don't you? And then he said, the power that we seek will not be given. It must be taken. This is the moment of truth. He said the African people must do or die. Dr. Chancellor Williams. Dr. Chancellor Williams said, the necessary re-education of blacks and a possible solution of racial crisis can begin, strangely enough, only when blacks fully realize and accept the central fact in their lives. The white man is their bitter enemy. And this is not the ranting of some wild-eyed militancy, but the calm and unmistakable verdict of thousands of years of documented history. Dr. Williams. Sister Harriet Tubman. Sister Harriet Tubman said, I have freed thousands of slaves, and I could have freed thousands more had they known they were slaves. Harriet Tubman. Marcus Garvey. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said, one God, one aim, one destiny. He said, a people without the knowledge of their history is like a tree without root. And we all know a tree without root soon topples over and dies. We as African people have already toppled over and are in the process of dying. Marcus Garvey said, those of us who have developed the mind scientifically, and I sure want you to get this. He said, those of us who have developed the mind scientifically are compelled by duty. And what is that compelling duty? It is a genuine, measurable love for self and kind. But he said they are compelled by duty to go amongst the millions of unthinking masses and convince them of the seriousness of the age in which we live. And he said these words about 100 years ago. And if the age was serious 100 years ago, what would you call it now? I would characterize it as cataclysmic madness. Marcus Garvey also said this. He said, if hell is what we were taught that it is, and you know what they taught us that it was, he said that there will be more Christians in hell than days in all of creation. Marcus Garvey himself professed to being a Christian, but as a result of his encounters with other Christians, this is the conclusion he drew. In conclusion, our approach to life should be common sense, logical, analytical, empirical, metaphysical, and scientific. It is a matter of necessity that we take the business of survival dead serious, because it is dead that will be the outcome if we don't. Brothers and sisters, we must become African-centered, African-conscious, and African-committed. Asante Sana.